Superb. All right, so thank you, everybody. This is now our third session. You had a session with Michelle a couple of weeks ago, and at the end of that session, there was some tasks that we had to do, which was looking at some of our clients, some of the people that we'd like to do business with, who would like to impact and start to pull together some of the list. Did everybody, I think most people indicated that they had a chance to do so. Can you just wave your hands at me if you want to just tell me again who's had a chance? I'm just letting somebody else in, Rona. Great. Great, I'll just let Rona in. Hi there, Rona. Connecting now. Hi there, Rona, how are you?
Hello, hiya, I'm good, thanks.
Great, fantastic, thanks for joining us. We're literally just starting, so we're gonna have a good interactive session. I was just asking who had a chance to complete some of the tasks that Michelle sent you, gave you last week or last couple of weeks before. Did you have a chance to do any of those?
Yep, I did.
I'm loving this.
I've got a multitude of businesses.
All right.
One of the things that I did was Michelle sent us quite a long list of where we can find businesses. And what I decided to do was to Google jobs. So what local jobs were being offered, and then looked at those companies. So I've got a list of all of the companies who were advertising jobs. So that's where I've got my lengthy list from.
Well done. I love that. We're going to do something like this today. Oh, we've got some more people coming in. We're going to do tasks like that today. We're going to develop some bits. What I want everybody to remind, hello there, I think it's Layla. She's coming in a second. Hannah, and I see your hand. I'm going to come to you in a second as well. Hi there, Layla. Hi there. So we're just starting off. Thanks for that. I was just asking who had a chance to complete some of the tasks from Michelle's last session. Hanan, your question? If you want to unmute. You need to unmute.
Oh, hi, sorry. Hi. Yeah, I don't have a question. I just I filled out all the homework, but there was just one part that I got confused on, but Michelle answered that. So yeah, I meant to raise my hand to say I did the homework, but I don't have a question at the moment.
No problem at all. No problem, no problem. All right, so what we're going to do today, we're going to do a bit of breakout room work together, and we're going to do some interactive conversations. So just to remind everybody, this is very much a safe space, okay? So we can share amongst ourselves. What would be really helpful is if I could get one or two of you just to, I'm going to pick on one of you, and just for you to give us a couple lists of some of the people that you came up with in that homework, as into who to contact. So I'm going to start with Irene. You want to give us a go? If you want to unmute.
I kind of knew you were going to start with me.
Good, you knew this coming. Well done.
My homework. I was like, damn.
Okay, no, don't worry if you haven't. Who else has had to go? All right, let's go with, who said that they did it previously? Was it? So Rona, did you say it was yourself? You did some?
I've done some. I'll just need to actually bring up the
bring it up.
File. So bear with me.
And Linda, have you done some as well? Okay, while Rona's bringing up hers, if Linda, you want to give us a couple, if you unmute as well.
Okay, I've got mine now.
Great.
So I mean, mine they're quite varied. So I've got London and Quadrant Housing, Remedy Care, Quality Teach, Gracewell Healthcare. I've got Senior Carer, Selco Builders, Tiggerley Childcare. There's just loads which are local. I've also got charities. So because I currently work part-time in a charity, and I've had a lot of experience of working for and with charities. So some of them that I've listed here: Macmillan Cancer Support, the Royal Academy of Music is one of them. I've got Shelter, Migrant Help, Frontline. I mean, literally, I've got about 150 organisations. Action for Children, British Red Cross.
Brilliant. I like that. And tell me, remind me, what services is it that you want to deliver for them?
So I want to I want to work with their leadership team to increase the happiness and well-being within their organisations.
So well-being, happiness.
Yeah.
And your target group is their leadership teams. Brilliant.
Yes, leadership team. Well, to work with them, but really to deliver to their employees.
Good. Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to come back to you in a second then. So
okay.
Linda, your turn.
Okay.
Oops, you're back on.
My list, yeah, I did that, and then the list disappeared. So I've actually got several, because I've been putting quite a few different ones together. But the main list is Hilton Hotels, Mediclinics, which are a South Africa company, but I've got a lot of contacts in the Middle East. GE Healthcare, Bupa, HCA, Nuffields, Legal and General, Shell, Intercontinental Hotels, and Aviva. And I've already been in contact with Aviva, and I've got a call with them for next week.
Brilliant. I love that. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. I'm going to pick on somebody else. Janine, would you like to, is it convenient?
Yeah, I knew you was going to say my name. So I have, let me just get my list. So I came to my list by looking at like top, like best companies to work for, and also thinking about my background. So I've got general companies. I've got Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Amex, Capital One, Barclays, NatWest, PwC, Deloitte, Cisco, and Salesforce. And then I've got some law firms. So Stevens and Bolton and Shoesmith, which are law firms I used to work at, TMW Solicitors, Osborne Clark, and RPC. So those are all law firms.
Fantastic.
And because I've worked in-house in the banking sector, and I've also worked in the tech space too. So I thought I would leverage the fact that I have some knowledge of those industries.
Great. And tell me what you want to deliver for them.
So I want to help the organizations to develop and retain their high-performing talent.
So company retention, yeah?
Yeah, and development.
Retention and development. When you say development, what do you mean?
So as in like supporting with career advancement. So whether that is presentation skills or helping people with like developing their leadership presence, things of that nature.
Thank you. There's a reason why I'm asking these questions. I'm not picking you, but that's great. Thank you. I love that. Thank you very much. And these are the types of things that I'm asking people to do on the Facebook group in your little video, to say what you do, and when I say the outputs, I mean what are the outputs that you're going to deliver for the organization, and we can have some conversations around that as well. Right, who joined us recently? So Amelia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi there, Amelia. Good to see you. So what we're discussing, I don't know if you've heard, we were just looking at some of the bits that we did over in the last session with Michelle. Part of the task was to start looking at some of the organizations we want to deliver our service to. Did you get a chance to do that?
Yes, we did.
Right.
So we're looking at, our focus is the African continent. So when it comes to organizations we want to work with, we selected the key industries and then the key organizations there. So if you take banking and finance, we want to work with the types like EcoBank. It's in 32 countries and it's all over the continent. There's Stanbic Bank, Access Bank. If you move off of the banking finance and you come into telecommunications, We want to work with the MTN, the Vodafones. If you move to the multilateral agencies, you want to deliver services for the food and agricultural organizations, the USAID, the UNDP type organizations. So that's what we're focusing on.
Thank you. And what is the service?
We're looking at leadership, right. So we're looking at leadership development services. We're also looking at stuff like consulting, such as salary surveys, core HR things that, like when they put out the tenders and stuff like that, that we can deliver on. Those are the things we're looking at.
Right, okay. Right, I'm just going to drill into one of the bits that you said. When they put out the tenders, what do you mean by that?
So, for instance, like when they put it out, they said they would want something like a salary survey. For instance, they may want you to come in and do a leadership transformation. Yeah. Exactly, stuff like that. Those are the things you want. Yeah.
That's really helpful. Thank you. I'm not picking on you, as I said. I'm just, there's a reason for some of these questions that I'm asking. Right, so thank you very much. That's been really, really helpful. And if you notice around some of the people that have spoken, I would say a lot of the companies and industries that you've spoken about are actually quite large organizations. They're easily medium to large entities. And so by that, they're going to have either a multinational or multi-country presence, or they're going to have a large number of employees or jurisdiction which they're going to be working across. Yeah, so we're looking at those today. The last person I'm going to ask, Denise, if you'd like to mention what you do, and then we're going to try something in a second.
I empower to help organizations empower employees to understand, monitor, and take their out working at home.
Right. And what companies do you think have you listed that you'd like to work with?
So some of them are quite small ones around where I work in Shoreditch, such as Charles Stanley, such as Monzo, Depop. And then there's a bit larger, such as Royal Bank of Scotland, NHS head office, and lots of tech and media company in the Shoreditch area.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's localized. That's good. Thank you very much. I really like what people have said. So I just want to give a couple bits of commentary around what we're discussing. So the reason why I've picked on the fact that some of the organizations that you're looking at are either medium, so you've got small, medium, and you've got large organizations, yeah? So small, let's just say anything below 200 employees, that could be seen as small. Yeah, anything above that, up to about, let's just say a few thousand employees could be seen as medium. And then you've got obviously got your larger institutions, your enterprises and government bodies, which you can see, go into thousands, which I would say large. That's just for the context of what we're talking about here. Now, the reason why I bring it up is because each one of those size of organizations are what we call an archetype. So an archetype is the type of buying institution or the type of person or the type of organization that you're marketing to. And so the way that you might market to or talk to or start conversations with in these types of organizations is different depending on which archetype you're talking to. Just like everybody around the room, everybody has their own specific family makeup. Some might have a very large family, some might have a small family. And the way that you approach all of those individuals is going to be dependent on their archetype. Why that is important is because generally, when you have a larger institution, they're likely to have departments or stakeholders or individuals that are looking after parts of that organization. They might have somebody that does finance, They might have somebody that does law. They might have a bigger team. They might have some people that look over a jurisdiction over a wide area network, or they might look over a national or international, as we're talking as well. So normally there's probably going to be a number of people that you're going to have to try and interact with, which we would fall under the words like stakeholders and things like that. And so especially talking about, there's a lot of people that picked up that want to do leadership training. So that is actually quite a wide subject matter. But if you think about the leaders in any of the organizations that you work in, think about any of the variety of training that they could take on. Yeah, so now, why I say it like this is because when you start having conversations with people in these organizations, they're going to ask you some typical questions. So we're going to try and prepare for those questions and how we approach these organizations. But first, let's just start with, so okay, let me ask this question as well. You can unmute or you can raise a hand. I just want to know, who has ever had to submit a proposal or a tender to try and land work? So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4. Great. And when for those that have done that, who did you submit it to? Was it to an organization? Was it a specific person in there? How did you find out? How did you do that?
Through procurement.
Through procurement. Anyone else?
Clinical lead.
Clinical lead. Okay.
L&D, HR, or
L&D.
the director of a team.
Brilliant. Great. So that's really, really helpful. So as you can see, we have already identified 3 or 4 different types of people that could go into, which are stakeholders. And the way that you approach them might be slightly different. So let me give you a little bit of background. Depending on the size of the organization, they will have rules as into how they award contracts. And those rules are dependent on a number of factors. So it could be scale, how many people you're delivering your service to, or it could be financial, how much the overall cost is to that organization of your service. And when I mean overall cost, it could be accumulative. So let's just say you currently do a service for company well-being, health and well-being. Let's just say, give you an example, yeah? And you deliver that at the moment one-on-one to clients, but you want to start delivering to more of a medium, large organization. So you're going to have instantly, what happens there is scale increases. So not just scale that increases, but finance increases. So let's just say you charge £1,000 for a complete course, yeah, and now you go to the medium enterprise or large enterprise, and they have 25 or 30 leaders. The cost of the organization is going to be, if they all did the same thing, potentially 30K. They could have an even larger scale, and you could be delivering some training. And if it was cost per person, it could be 400 people that you're delivering to. And again, your scale would go up based upon that. So in a lot of these institutions, they would have a process that indicates what they have to do when they are awarding these types of contracts. So for example, smaller contracts, let's just say a small contract is anything below 20K. 10, 20K, that could be seen as small. So they might only require you to send in a proposal and have a conversation with a couple of people for them to do something up to that scale. Then after that, they might, when I say after that, I mean, if it's going to total over that, they might need to get bids from a number of people in that industry to then justify that they've evaluated. Yeah, and by a number of people, it could be they might only need to get 3 bids, 4 bids, and they'll evaluate all for the same service and make a decision. We can go into that a bit further. And then after that, if you're going to a bit higher, so a bit more spend, especially in some of the larger organizations. Let's just say after 50K, which is, you know, very realistic. They do spend a lot of money on some of these, but it could be 50K over 3 years. It could be 100K over 3 years. It could be 75,000 in over different departments over the next 2 years. So you can see how it adds up. But they might have to have a formalized way of awarding that contract, which is different to how you market to an individual. You know how you've been picking up clients as you are now. So as you will hear me say it before. Now, when we're, I see your hands as well, everybody. So I will answer these questions in a second. What we need to consider is the types of organizations that you're looking at. The bigger they are, is more likely that the scale is going to increase. And that then determines your methodology that you're going forward. So yes, I see your, Rona, do you want to unmute and say what you want to say?
Okay, so Adrian, you mentioned that 20K is a small contract.
For a large organization.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. So for a small organization,
yeah,
you know, 20K might be
very big.
Large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. And I think it's a very fair point. Hence why I was talking about archetypes. So the way that you approach each archetype might be slightly different. So if I was to say to you, Rona, I've got a course for 20K for you individually, that's quite a large amount of money for any individual to do. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit smaller for a small business, anyone out there, and then it's a little bit smaller for medium, and it's smaller for a large, all dependent on who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. So the impact of what you're trying to deliver and the amount of work that you have to deliver before with that is affects the way that you have these conversations and who you have your conversations in the organization.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
No problem. Hanan, you still got your hand up. Is this old hand or new hand?
It's an old hand.
No worries, no problem.
That's
great. So what I want us to do, we're going to quickly go into a breakout room. I'm going to set a scenario which I want you to discuss amongst each other, with each other, and then we're going to come back, get some feedback, and then I'm going to give you a bit more info, and then we're going to do something else as well, just a bit. Is that okay? Right, so what I want us to do, I want us to consider, I'll try and make it more bespoke to the people that we've got in the room. So right, that's fine. So I want you to think of this, a lady called Grace. Now, Grace has been delivering some training, let's just say leadership training. She's been doing this one-on-one for a number of years, one-to-one or one-to-many. One-to-many to her might be 5 or 10 people at a time. Now, what's happened is she's followed what Michelle has said, and she's gone in and done some audits, and and so she's had some conversations with some organizations, but she's also identified some other organizations that she wants to start working with. Right, so I'm going to put you into the breakout room. I want you to come up with a brief list. I'll just put you into, how many of us have we got? Right, I'll put us into 3 breakout rooms. Just a brief list amongst yourself of what you think her next steps should be in trying to approach these larger organizations, and then we'll have a discussion. Is that okay? And I'll put you in there. I'll indicate, you'll hear me jump in. I'll put you in there for briefly, say about 7 minutes or so. So let me see if I can do this now. Right, I'm going to randomly put you in some rooms, and I want you to, and at the end, if you just nominate somebody just to give me some feedback, and then we'll briefly discuss afterwards. Is that okay? Anybody got any questions before I put you in? All right, can't say I didn't ask, okay? Here we go. So if you click and you go into any of the rooms now. Great. So let's just start with giving us some feedback. One person from each room, if you can give us 3 bullet points as into what you think some of the things you could do next. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we thought if she hasn't done so already, she needs to consider her messaging to make sure that it's relevant for the corporate versus the groups that she was doing the work with before. Look at her list of contacts and then consider if she knows anybody at any of the companies so that she can request an introduction to the relevant person. And if she doesn't know anybody within the organization, use LinkedIn or other social media platforms to try and track down the contact details of the types of people that she wants to speak to. Those were 3 things. We had more, we had lots, but yeah.
Good. If we've got time, I'll come back to you and you can give us some more. Someone from the other rooms?
So in our room, we kind of thought that she needed to do research on the companies she had a list of, and just to put them into groups of whether they're small, medium or large companies. And then that determines the depth of research in which she would do on the companies. So if it's a smaller one, then it wouldn't be as deep as if it was a larger one, because obviously there's more to have to deliver because they're going to want more depth as to what you're doing. And then we also, another thing was, well, we kind of elaborated on her starting small and find, because she's only done 1-to-1s and 1 to 5 to 10 people, and starting small and then kind of getting her model, using that as a kind of I can't think of the word at the moment. Sorry, what was that?
Like a pilot?
That's a pilot, so that she can use that to then go to a medium and a large and say, this is how I did it here. And this was the results. And through my method, they will be able to, this is how it came out and how it benefited the company. So because she hasn't got that at the present time, if she does that, then she has proof in the pudding, and it's monetary and it's a way that they can relate to it, her progress. So yeah, that's.
I really like those. Fantastic. We'll give some comment afterwards as well. Last room, the other room, who's in the last room? Somebody want to give me some feedback, Rishi?
Yeah. So in our room, we thought that the first step would be like surveying that what are the needs of the company. For that, you could identify the contacts that you have and then kind of reach to the right person and have a lunch and learn to identify the needs of the company. Once you identify the needs, you can have a small introduction of yours, which could be offered like just free, so that you have, and take a feedback then and there so that you get to know how that first session works for you. And the last would be that you could even collaborate with people who are already providing some other kind of training, and your training would be an additional training to that group of trainings.
Brilliant. I love that. Thank you. I'm really enjoying that. Who's it that spoke first again? Was it who you said you had a couple extra? Was it Janine? Was it who spoke first?
Yeah, we said what else did we say? Oh, we mentioned research. We also said that if you have a platform, so say you have a podcast or some kind of series that you run, you could identify leaders within those organizations and invite them to come onto your platform and interview them to build up that initial relationship. And then I think the other things we mentioned have probably been said.
Great.
We talked about like giving, like if you've identified the person, you could kind of send them something in the mail so that you can stand out, and then follow up with an email to differentiate you from other people who are going to be flooding their inbox.
I like that. Okay, so let me give you some feedback on that. These are all brilliant. There's no wrong answer, by the way. They're all things. As you can see, there's a number of things that we can do across the piece, and there are others. Right, let me give you a couple considerations. So dependent on the size of the organization, that is buying, or you're contracting with, or you are doing business with, they're going to consider some things about you as an individual prior to making a decision. Yeah. So what I really liked about some of the things that you said here, right? You're going to be making some contacts within these organizations. You're going to be emailing people. You're going to be maybe doing a lunch and learn or an audit or things like that. So from my point of view, I would say, what is the point of us doing a lunch and learn and an audit? What is the point of that? Anybody want to answer?
It demonstrates your services, and it opens the door to then offer an ongoing how to implement it in their workplace.
Good. That's one. Another one?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ami. Go.
Sorry. I was just going to say something similar to what Linda said. I think lunch and learn, you get the opportunity for a taster. I think you probably said the same thing. Get an opportunity for a taster. And what was the other one? Lunch and learn. And an audit is also being able to outline where you see the problems and the potential solution that you could propose to offer. I think those are the differences, maybe.
Good. Anybody else?
I was going to say, with the lunch and learns, because you're delivering something, but then there's opportunity for open dialogue, then it can give you more insight into what they perceive the problems to be. Because if you do the audit, you're assessing and then you're saying this is your issue. But if you can understand where they sit with the problems, then it's easier to frame your pitch. Like
Brilliant.
later.
Brilliant. I like that. So now let me give you a response. There's no wrong answer there. These are all brilliant. Depending on the size of the archetype or the type of archetype that you're dealing with, what you might get out of the lunch and learn or that initial email or an audit, the way you use it might be slightly different. There are going to be some similarities, but it might be slightly different. Now, if you think about a medium, let's say the middle of the road, medium-sized organization that you're trying to deal with, they probably have some form of understanding what their issues are, what problems are, and they're looking for people that can help them with that. And so you doing a lunch and learn or an audit will give you, what you want to take out of that is try and get as much feedback as possible. We're going to go into some of this in future sessions, how you do that, but just try and get as much feedback as possible, which then goes on to what Rishi's point is about identifying the areas that they need help in, as opposed to coming in and telling them, we believe this is what your areas of that need issues. It's a slightly different inflection. You know, if I came into this room here and I said to you, I've got a product of training, training you how to boil an egg. Some people in here might not even eat eggs. Some people might not, might not like eggs and what have you. And as brilliant as my product or service is, until I take some feedback from you and find out, do you eat eggs, or is that on your menu? That type of thing, what I'm saying to you, my conversation to you might fall on deaf ears because it might not be appropriate for the organization. So let's put it back to your services that you're doing leadership, you're doing health and well-being, you're doing all of this. Is it important to them? What is important to them? Yeah, and I'll explain why that's important. What you want to find out and what we want to aim from some of these audits and lunch and learns and bits and pieces is, yes, one, visibility, so that you are there, so that they know you're there. Two, they get a bit of credibility of who you are, what you can do, what it's like to work with. But the main thing for you is understanding what their requirements are and getting it from them, feedback. Because you understanding their requirements, that gives you the content of any proposal that you want to put in to them. You never do a proposal without getting feedback from them. You never do a proposal or send in just especially with these medium-sized business, larger businesses, you never just send in a cold letter or what have you without getting understanding of what they require. Yeah, so if you imagine what their bucket list is and why. The benefit of doing a lunch and learn and audit is that they might not know, but you, until they do your audit or your lunch and learn. And, you know, and so then you're then presenting, you're helping them understand the issues, and then you're presenting something, your service, your skill that will help them identify and solve that issue. Yeah. Now, and this comes back to, this is why I liked all of your feedback, because when Denise was giving us some feedback, she was saying, you know, getting some testimonials, talking about, I did this here, I did result, showing some of the results, some of the, what was the benefits of what happens when you delivered it somewhere else. Whenever you're doing all of these things, your testimonials and bits and pieces, it still wants to be linked to what their requirements are. If I brought up a certificate and said, listen, I'm brilliant at swimming, I can swim 50 meters, I've got a certificate, that's fine if you're a swimmer, but it's not if you're a business that doesn't have anything to do with swimming. Oops, somebody is joining the room. And oops, we've got another person joining. Continue. Hi there, patients. We're in a session at the moment, but we'll continue in a second, and I'll come and see what we're doing. So, so feedback-wise, that's what you want to be deriving from the organizations. And why I'm going to talk about these things is the larger the organization and the bigger the ticket that you're talking with, is the more that you want to center your response, your proposal, your offering around those requirements. That's what they buy against. They don't buy against necessarily just your price or what you're offering. They buy against whether or not you satisfy their requirements. So let's just say some of the people identified that they wanted to be delivering leadership training. They wanted to be delivering, I'll see your hands and I will answer them, guys. They want to be, let's just say you were saying you wanted to work with a local authority or an NHS or a Google or what have you. Now, the bigger the organization is, they're going to have a variety of requirements that they want to be solved. And what turns us buyers on, me working as a buyer, is when I can see, this organization understands what we need and will deliver it by doing A, B, C, and D, and the results is this, and it costs this. I can make an evaluation of that, whether or not it's value against my requirement. So I'm not necessarily looking at you against another competitor. I'm looking at you against my requirement list. And the bigger the contract and the bigger the organization is, the more that happens. And they do that in a different type of method. Question, Irene?
Sorry, I was looking for the button. So I think this is referencing from a tendering process, right?
Not just a tendering process, no.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Anytime you're doing a proposal that goes in, you have to have some dialogue. The more dialogue you have with them and understand what they require, your proposal should form, when you respond back to them, their requirements should be listed within your proposal. In fact, as I say it, their requirements should be your table of contents in what you're sending back, or your bullet points.
So I'm thinking, therefore, let's say in the past, this is what I was doing. Sometimes we'd reach out to, I'd say slightly random, but we've got we've narrowed the list down, and we're trying to sell our service. It sounds like what we should be doing is that first touch point has to be either lunch and learn or an audit or something. It can't be, boom, we've got this offer for you and it's great. Right. There's got to be a different touch point.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that's definitely the point I'm trying to drive home. Right. And so me as a buyer, I never buy off unsolicited proposals. I've been given a set of money and requirements and bits which I need to pay for against requirements. Yeah, and so so to sum up what you should be doing, the word that we want to use is discovery. Yeah, you want to discover what their requirements are, what their needs are, what their pain points are, why it's important to them, what timescale they're looking for, maybe what budget they've got. If you had all of that, you can fulfill that in your proposal. So then when they read your proposal, they'll say, ah, this person understands what we're looking for. They understand why we need it, why it's important to us. And when I look at their testimonials, it's people that are saying, oh, they've done this for us. And I can see a connection between our requirement and your proposal. Is that helpful? Yeah. Simone.
Hi, Adrian. Just a quick one. This is probably a silly question, but I just wanted to get...
No silly questions, that's no problem.
I understand the lunch and learn and the concept and the method behind it, it makes sense. But in terms of an audit, because I'm from a strong retail background, when I think of audit, I think of like going in, double checking paperwork and so on and so forth. In terms of this, when you say an audit, could you give an example, please?
Sure. So sometimes what you do is we're going to go into some of these sessions as well a little bit further, but what you do is you do a bit of a survey. It could be done in a lunch and learn. Yeah, an audit, but basically you're going to have some form of questionnaire or way of soliciting information for them about what their requirements are or pain points. It might be a verbal audit that you take some notes from, but it's something where you're getting information from them, where they're articulating information about what their requirements are. Sometimes they do that in a formalized message, but I'm just trying to give you a way that you can do it in this environment.
Yeah, perfect. Yep. Thank you.
No problem at all. Patience, hi. If you can unmute for me.
I was muted, sorry. Sorry I came late. I was kind of very lucky to have made it because I had a few calls back to back. So it finished early and I was looking at the time to be able to run back. My question really is, I know that there's like a government gateway where you can put all your interest and your information.
Okay.
But usually, it's quite massive, the requirements, like they want personal indemnity or professional indemnity.
Right.
That is millions and millions of, 2 million, 3 million, and then they want which is something I used to experience. Obviously, when you want to work, they say you need 3 years experience and you haven't got any yet. So you're already disqualified. But you know that you can deliver the service that they have to offer. So how does one meet up and get through those challenges?
Brilliant questions. Right. I love what you're saying because this really leads on very well. Right, Patience, I'm going to answer that just shortly because it's the next bit that I'm going into. Let me answer the first part for you though. There are many portals that are out there. There are many of those. On my training, I show you which ones to use that are free and how you go about it. 2, to answer your second question about things like indemnities and what have you. Now, we were talking earlier about archetypes. Archetypes are the types of people that you're doing trading with: small company, medium company, large company. Just like archetypes with individuals where they are. Now, the larger the organization and the more staff that they're dealing with is the more considerations that they're probably going to have to take on when they're trading with you, right? I give you an example. If you was delivering work for a hospital or a school or a town hall or what have you, Now, think about all of the individuals that interact with that organization or that building. So you've got public, you've got employees. If you was in the healthcare, you've got people visiting that might be sick, you've got children, you've got adults, you've got seniors, all of these people that might be in the same vicinity of you delivering work. It might be training, it might be health and well-being. It could be all of these different things, yeah? So the consideration of that organization is they need to make sure that when they trade with an organization like yourself, not an individual, I always use the word organization, which is what your business is, yeah? They need to make sure that they satisfy certain requirements, such as you have insurances so that when you come in and you set up your PC and you run your wire from the wall, you know how you're doing it. And if somebody tripped over, they'd be insured. All of these types of things that happen because of the type of organization. Yeah, they'd have to consider, you know, if I was going into, I'll give an example. If I was going into a public space where there might be children, some of your employees may not be allowed in there because of, I don't know, criminal record or what have you, bits and pieces, assessment. Well, all they're doing is not trying to catch you out, it's just assessment of the rules to make sure that they can satisfy what it is, yeah? And just for your last point about having experience, we analyze you as an organization. So if you haven't had experience yet for, let's just say 3 years, and you're going into this environment, this is a prime candidate for the word I like to use, collaboration. Identifying people that are already working in that space, delivering your services so that you can also build up your portfolio, or you collaborate with other organizations as well that have had a bit more. Yeah, and so that will allow you to transition, like you said. Who said it before? Denise. When you start transitioning between small, medium, and large organizations, you do it in stages. And part of that involves you delivering work in these institutions in different ways, either through another training company that might be in there, or somebody else that's got a contract, you partner up with them. That will give you a case study, that will give you experience, that will give you all of these things that you can use so that when I ask questions, you can satisfy some of these questions with examples. Yeah. Yeah. And why it's going on, let me just go into the next bit, and then I'm going to come back to Rona, your hand as well, and I see your hand, Denise, as well.
So, but quickly asking the question. So for me, I had one such contract. It wasn't a big one, but it was an interesting organization. They wanted so much more for the money they were offering. Yeah. But then the collaboration meant that because of the money they were offering as well, it wasn't going to be, how do you call it, cost effective. By the time you consider the effort they were asking, and some of the clauses they put in it to say things like, oh, we reserve the right to ask you to do more without paying. And I'm like, already you're not paying enough, you know. And the person who had the experience that I tried to collaborate with said, on your own head be it, if you go and do this and kill yourself, I ain't doing it. So
I love your questions. I love it. I love it. What I would say is this, yeah. Just because it's an opportunity that you've seen doesn't necessarily always equate that it's viable for you, depending on your business and your size of business. Yeah. You probably want to, when you see opportunities, talk to somebody like myself to help kind of give you a review to make sure it's worth the effort that you do going forward for it. Yeah. And you'll gradually work out what's best for you in the stage that you're in and what's not best for you based upon your experience or history and things like that. But I'm happy to talk outside after that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Good. We're doing okay for time. Right. Okay. Let me just mention a couple of things then while we're there. So, and it's building on a question. Who is it that asked it? I think it was Leila. I can't remember who asked earlier, but saying if what I'm talking about is just for tenders, it's not necessarily just for tenders, right? But let me explain. The bigger the organization, the more likely they are going to issue their requirements and advertise their requirements via a tender process. Much more likely. Or they're going to use what's called a preferred supplier list. Yeah, so they'll have a specific set of people which they only give these opportunities to. the larger the organization that you go up the scale in. But here's the thing, for you to get on those preferred supplier lists, what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to put in a proposal or a tender. And then every time an opportunity comes, they'll send you another, what's called a mini tender, which actually outlines their requirements. So what happens is, for when you're sending in a proposal or a tender, let me explain the difference. Now, a tender will be, I as an organization have sent out to the market a requirement. What I want to see when you come back on your tender is your response to my requirement. And I would have listed all of the things that I require, when I want it, where it is, the type, how it is, what we're looking for, what our outcomes are. And that's what I want to see come back in my tender, not in your tender, not inverted commas, I've got a brilliant plan, which I've done for company A, B, and C. It's more bespoke to the requirement. Yeah. We will do some more work on some tenders a bit further down the line. So don't worry, I will be helping you on that. Is this helpful so far, what I'm talking about? Good. Right, so a couple of questions I can see, Rona and Denise.
Mine's just a very small, minor question, really. You mentioned to go in as an organisation.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're just starting out, would you use your organisation as your name, or do you think it's wise to actually have a proper business name?
Good.
Should I be Rona Anderson, or should I be, I don't know, happiness consultancy? Yeah.
Fantastic question, and it's not a small question. All I want you, the name of your business doesn't matter to me as an organisation. It's just remember that when I'm dealing with especially medium to large organisations, they're going to trade with you as a business. Whether or not you're called Rona Anderson or Starlight Communication or Apple or what have you, they're going to trade with you. And what they're going to be looking at and assessing you on is your business. So they won't look at your personal finance, they'll look at your business finance. They won't look at your personal insurances, they'll look at your business insurances. That's what they're evaluating against, because that's the trading body that they're dealing with. Is that helpful? Does that answer? Yeah. And also when you do your applications, that's what we want to do. When you do you do it in your business name. You do it in, you do it in your consulting name, whatever your business you're delivering it. That's how you make your application. Not necessarily in your personal, your personal.
Okay. I've got a business name which I no longer like. It's just not. So would I have to then set up a new business name, or would I just have to suck it and keep the old business name?
It's a decision. You can actually even change your business name. You could say Rona Anderson Limited, formerly known as what have you. I'm going to be really honest. You kind of want to keep it as clean as possible, because what I'm going to do when I evaluate, when I get a bid come in, I'm going to ask you to give me experience or case studies or what have you that relate to the business that you're talking about. Yeah, and so you kind of, have you been delivering the service that you'll want to deliver via that business at all?
No.
Okay, so then if you haven't been doing that, then I would probably suggest you just set up a new business and in the name that you want and just start from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Denise?
So my question, sorry for people who already know the answer. This is all very new to me. So the lunch team, the lunch and learn whole thing, I know nothing about it. So my question is, how would you set up a lunch and learn to take place in the first place?
All right, good.
Who would you contact and how would you make that happen?
Good question. Right, so we are going to be going into this actually on this course. Yeah. Short version is we're going to identify somebody in the organization, make contact, and that means we're going to have to start making some calls, contacting some people, you know, cold calling or via LinkedIn or via whatever you do, and see, you know, and offer your services and say, I can offer A, B, C, and D for free. Would you consider, would you be happy for me to deliver this for you in your organization, A, B, and C? And then you start to build a conversation as into what they'd want to see on that lunch and learn. And then you create a program. Somebody like yourself, health and well-being, you know, you could do workshops. You could do a free workshop or a series of free workshops for a week in an organization, so that people can see what it's like to learn with you. You know, just a lunch and learn, say 45 minutes. I'm going to do, I don't know. We could be saying I'm going to come in and do some free Pilates for your staff. Anybody that wants to come and take part, as long as you provide a venue, I'll do it for free. They'll get to know you. Then you start having some conversations with the people to see if there's a requirement for it. That's an example. Yeah, but we'll go into some of that. And what I suggest you do as well is, have you had a session with Michelle yet? I think what comes along with this is that you have a session with Michelle outside. She'll be able to give you some. Okay. I'll remind her. She'll be able to give you some tips as well. But we will be doing this as well.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem at all. Linda?
All right, mine's just a little bit opposite. It's not a question, but for patients and for anybody else that hasn't got a lot of experience doing what they're doing, if you find that the ones that have got the big tenders, you can always put in to do a certain section of their tenders. For example, I've just got a link now with Wakefield Prison, which is a top security prison. The two main contenders in the prison education are Novus and Milton Keynes College. So I went to them to provide a certain part of their curriculum in one specific area. And so you can do that because you're big enough to be able to do one thing, and that's your expertise. You're not big enough to take on or even look at the big tenders. Absolutely. But if you get that experience, then next time something comes up, you can go for something a little bit bigger, and you've already got the experience behind you.
Absolutely right. And adding to what Linda was saying, sometimes, again, remember we was talking about the archetypes and what I said about scale. The higher up the scale you go, is the more likely they're trying to award a bigger contract that delivers a number of outcomes. And that might come out in what's called lots. They break it down into little parts. So they might have a training contract, which has leadership training, occupational health training, all of these different things that they try and do. But as Linda said, you might only be required to deliver one lot, one part. And that's what you apply for, if they allow you. The media companies might, you might be able to put something together. Or if you see that there's a trend where they're looking and they're advertising for all of these variety of lots, this is where you start looking for people that you can collaborate with, that you can partner business opportunity with, so that one can deliver A, another one can deliver B, another one can deliver C, another one can deliver E. Does that make sense? So that you're joining together and using the power of collaboration.
I'm just going to jump in there because PricewaterhouseCoopers have got a big educational program for schools and universities. Sorry. And on that one, a company that was doing the educational part, I went in and I did 2 days doing the mental health side of it. So just look at what other people are doing and slot yourself in as part of their jigsaw.
100%, Linda. I totally agree. And so, later on in the service, I'll explain. I'm going to be putting on some masterclasses around some of these areas about how you respond to proposals and put things on. So I'll let you know that that's coming, and you guys all get a major discount because you're already on this course. Yeah, and as well. So, and there's also a couple of things outside which help people, which I'll put something together and let you know. Have I missed anybody? Any more? Are these? I've got a couple of other hands up. Janine, okay.
Yeah, it was just a quick one. I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but in terms of the tenders, did you mention where you find them? Like, is there a a central government website, or is it like local?
Yeah.
You look at local authorities, or how does that?
There is a variety. There's a lot of them. Contact me outside, and I'll show you how to go about that. I've got a service which is called Locate, which teaches people how to locate these tenders, where to look, who the contacts are, what they've been awarding, things like that to help. I've designed a product specifically around that.
Okay.
Patience, is that an old hand or is that the same hand?
It's same. It's a new hand. So it's the other hand. It's just asking. You know, Linda had said, and thank you very much, Linda, for that. It's just how you find these people who are tendering for this contract, that you can then contact them. So with what you've just said, Locate, would it be able to find that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to work out something for you guys very well, specifically on this course. We're 20 past. Let's finish that in another 8 minutes, if that helps you. There's a couple of bits that I just wanted to highlight with you. So, are you finding this helpful? Is this the type of thing that you want? Right. Okay. Right. So now, I just want to recap a couple of bits that we've spoken about today, and then I'm going to give you it. So remember when we started, I was talking about archetypes. So you're thinking about the types of organizations that you've got on your list. Are they small? Are they medium? Are they large? And the type of archetype then gives you an indication of how you might want to interact with them. Not only that, the type and scale of that organization probably determines how they go about buying your service. So sometimes the smaller ones, you can go in direct, you can have a conversation with somebody or do a lunch and learn, and they might buy it instantly. They might have that opportunity to do so. Medium might have a bit more of a process that's involved. Larger ones definitely going to have a process that determines how they buy. So some of the things that you do when you're talking to, in the next sessions, remember, we're going to do this anyway, but when you're talking to these organizations, a question you want to ask is, how do you buy this service? Yeah. Who purchases it? There's no golden answer. It really depends on the organization, but you understanding that gives you an indication of who you need to be talking to. And what you'll also find is that there are trends. So you might go to certain types of companies and you might hear, we do it all through procurement or our buying team, or we do it all through this stakeholder, or we do it all through this, we do it all via this service user. And you'll see trends and you'll be able to identify who in these organizations that you might want to contact. Yeah. Then we spoke about today who, we did our little breakout, and then we were thinking about this Lady Grace, some of the steps that we could take to start interacting with the organizations that she's got on her list, especially some of the medium and larger ones that are there. So there was a variety of things that we could do in preparation. Hopefully you took some notes in relation to that. You'll get this recording as well, so don't worry. And then we were talking about the different stages, some of the things that happen. So let me just round off on this as well, right? I want you, people have just mentioned at the end here, with some of the larger organizations where they might be using things like tenders, what do? Yeah, I'm going to give you 4 stages. Right, when the larger the organization, they're going to probably follow this process. They're going to prepare their requirement, let's call that 1. They're going to advertise it. They're going to ask you to apply. They're going to evaluate your submission. and they're going to award a contract. Let me say that again. Prepare, advertise, application, evaluation, and then award. So why that's important is because depending on where you are in that process, that tells you what you need to do and how you interact with them. So if they're in the preparation stage, what preparation stage is where they're trying to work out what they need to do, what their requirements are. Perfect time for you to do a lunch and learn, an audit, start to have some conversations with some of the people in there, because they're going to be pulling together their requirement list. That's also a good time to put in what we called a proposal, or an unsolicited proposal. I do this, we can do this, A, B, and C, because it'll be in their mind. Yeah, once they've then decided that, they will then advertise. And this is where it comes into, you know, what of various forms that they might do it. They might do it on their website, might do it through a portal, they might do it privately. There's lots of different ways it can happen. Yeah, so they'll advertise, we're looking for 4 red cups, as I describe it. Then you then have to apply. So they're going to say, this is what you need to do to apply to deliver these 4 red cups, or leadership training, or health and well-being, or whatever it is. They're going to, and once you submitted your tender or your proposal or your response, they're going to evaluate it. This is everything that I do in my job, by the way, so as a procurement director. So then they're going to evaluate your response. Once they've reached the end of their response, they're going to give you a score. And then generally the highest scoring person is the one that's awarded a place, or the highest scoring persons, because very much so they might have more than one people that they're awarding a contract to. Yeah, so depending on where you are in those stages, that determines your interaction with the organization. This is why I say that you can't just put in a proposal and they award, because there's a process that they're more likely going to follow. You know, they're going to need to know what are their requirements. They're going to need to know, you're going to need to know how they want to see your proposal come back. They might want to say, all right, if you're going to send in a proposal, we want it to look like this. We want these sections. We want you to quote in this way so that it's fair for everybody. Yeah, and so that when they evaluate it, that's what I do. So that's what I do with my procurement teams. We create these, we create all of that. We do the preparation work, talking to all the people in the organization, looking for what we need. We pull together a advert and like an application pack that you guys need to fill in. You fill it out, send your response. I'll look at all the responses, evaluate it, make a decision, and then award a contract. So depending on where you are in that, there's different things that you need to do. So you never send in your tender immediately just because you've heard that there's a requirement that might be there, or that there's a rumor that they're awarding contracts. What you want to do is find out what is the methodology that they're going to do to go about. Is that helpful? I see another hand, Amelia.
Yes, thank you, Adrian. So I have 3 small questions. So my first one is there a difference between the request for proposal and the tender? That's the first one. And then the second one is, you mentioned.
Cut out.
Hello?
Yeah, I'll hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so I was asking if there's a difference between the request for proposal and the tender document.
Yeah.
There's a difference between those two.
Yeah.
And my second question is, you mentioned an unsolicited proposal. Who should you send that to? What department or persons do you want to target for something like that?
And the
then,
last question?
And the last question is, I know for smaller organizations, most likely the decisions will be taken from the very top. But when we look at the mid-sized to the larger organizations, based on how you segmented them, who do we want to target then if we're putting out these sorts of documents? Who do we want to target or connect with? Brilliant question. All right, so right, I'm aware of time, so let me answer it. I'll answer it succinctly. Is there a difference between a request for proposal, RFP, which is known, or a tender? Not really. Not really in the way that you have to interact with it. Basically, a request for a proposal is where they have said to you, this is what we're looking for, basically our requirements, and we want you to respond back to us if you are in that market or you can deliver an answer to that, A tender is just a more formal version of that, But essentially, for what your task is and what you're going to do, you have to analyze what they've said, what they're looking for, and respond to that in your proposal or your tender. So, and if, so that's what they do. So that's the other side of what Michelle and myself do, if that makes sense. So if you imagine that whole tender side, proposal side, that's my bag. And then Michelle is very much in this visibility and the other side of it, corporate interaction and corporate, very much so, brilliant. So it works hand in hand because you do one for the other. Yeah, absolutely. So, and if you want, just contact me outside. And if this is something that you're actively doing or you want help doing, just contact me outside, and we'll arrange a conversation. Yeah. And what was your last question? I think I covered two. What was the last question? Yeah, I was asking about the unsolicited proposal. Who
brilliant.
Do you send that to? And then also the large size organizations, who do you target?
Right, brilliant. Right, unsolicited proposal. Right, so more than likely it's going to be the service users. We'll go to the people that are interacting with your actual product. They are not necessarily the people that are paying for it, but people that are interacting with your product, and unsolicited email might help or work. And unsolicited emails are for visibility. Not for award of contract, they're for visibility. Because you haven't worked out what they need yet. You're just letting you know, that you're in an environment and you obviously offer a variety of things. They don't have a requirement yet, or they haven't identified it yet or told you about it yet. So it's unsolicited emails and things like that are visibility based. Remember, these organizations buyers do not spend any time surfing the web just looking for people to do A, B, and C. They don't do that. They don't spend time looking at your social media. They don't spend time going down your website. They don't spend time looking at your Instagram or your Facebook. They don't do it. So they do whatever an organization does is on purpose, for a reason, for a project, for a delivery, for an output, for something. And if you fall within that, that's when they're going to start looking at what you do.
Okay.
And the last one was, you were saying who?
Make a large organization. Who do you target? Who do you want to connect with or invite to your lunch and learn?
Right. So I would say, sales spin now, definitely attend the next session, because we're going to go into some of that. and short version, right. The people that are interacting with your service are the ones that you want to do a lunch and learn, and the stakeholders and the people that might buy, all of these people that are there. There's a number of touch points that you can use, but each one of those touch points will be looking at it for a different reason. So there's no one size fits all, but there's a whole variety of people that might be interested in what you're doing. So I'm going to draw the line here because we can continue. Thank you very, very much. Hopefully you found that helpful today. I've really enjoyed it. I'll talk to Michelle and we see if we can do, oops, who's coming in now? So, okay, yeah. I'll talk to Michelle and see if we can possibly do another session like this. But I will be doing what we call, you might call the second half of these things in my course, what will be happening later. Yeah, so look out, I'm going to be doing some bits in July and things like that. Yeah, so so if everybody's okay, is that all right? So I'm just going to tell you one bit of homework to do, yeah? With those organizations that you've put a list together of, for Michelle's, I want you to just start considering where they fall in the archetypes. And then start to consider how you might talk to them based upon that.
Sorry,
Adrian.
Can you take it again, please?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Rona, sorry.
No, that's nice. The list that you did with Michelle at the end of the last session of all the companies and things like that that you want to start talking to, I want you to look at them, that list, and try and put them into, even as a minimum, small, medium, and large archetypes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, because that will tell you or give you a bit of an indication as into how you might want to start your approach.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Try not to go too large, try and be more specific. Here's an example of too large. I want to work with the NHS. That's too large. But people do say that. Yeah. I want to work with the schools, the education. What's smaller? Which school? Which NHS? Which local authority?
All right.
Yeah. And then then it will give you a bit more. Which department of Google? Yeah. Which department of HSBC? Which branch? Which branches? Is it national? Is it, do you understand where I'm coming from? Helps you zone in a bit more when you're approaching them. Brilliant. All right, thank you guys.
Adrian, just a quick question.
Yeah.
What's a reasonable size list that we should work with for this exercise?
What size, say it again, what size list?
What's a reasonable sized list?
That's a good question. I mean, what can you handle? You probably want to break it down into chunks. I don't mind having a big list. You can have a big list, but you probably want to start breaking it down into chunks of 20, 30, and choosing, out of that. You can't approach them all at the same time. But maybe you want to approach 10 large, 10 small, 10 medium. That's an example. Yeah. And then you do something and you learn, and then you approach them more. That's one way. Or you might say, I only want to go for medium. That's another way. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Is that helpful?
Definitely, thank you.
All right, brilliant, guys. All right, then. So back on the link with Michelle's link, yeah, in 2 weeks, but we will send that out on the video, on the email. Please, my request, can you do a little video for us in the Facebook group? Tell people who you are, what you do. It will benefit you. It really will benefit you, because we want to practice having these conversations. Yeah, but hope everybody has a fantastic evening. I really want to say thank you for your participation and coming back and being so vocal. It's really, really helpful. Is that okay?
Thank you.
No problem. I'll see you guys later. I really appreciate it. And and if you need to reach out, just reach out. I'm in the Facebook group. There's no such thing as a silly question, okay? Remember that. All right then. Lots of love. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.